Due to the effects of a low base, the US economy developed so quickly that silver and gold became scarce. And along with coins, states began to issue paper money. Freedom of lending led to the establishment of banks in each state, which began printing their own dollars in the mid-19th century. Endless paper was issued to cover military expenses. And by the end of the Civil War, only 1/3 of dollars were backed by gold and silver. It becomes clear to the government that a decentralized banking system not only weakens the dollar, but also leads to regular stock market crises. So, in 1913, the states created their own central bank, the Federal Reserve System, and very timely, because a year later World War I broke out in Europe, and then the dollar was able to turn around for real. Since the beginning of the war, the expenses of leading European powers have grown rapidly. To cover these expenses, England, France, and Germany have actively printed money, which has led to their amount ceasing to correspond with the gold they kept in their reserves. The United States did not enter the war and actively began lending to England and France, thus reducing their external debt. By the end of World War I, the United States issued loans worth $10 billion. Of this amount, $7 billion was spent on the purchase of American weapons by Europeans. In addition, many companies and wealthy individuals preferred to keep their money not in war-torn Europe, but in reliable American banks. As a result, by the beginning of 1920, the US economy had accumulated half of the world's gold reserves. This was a financial incentive, together with the invention of electricity, automobiles, radio, and cinema. The economy quickly overheated, and the Great Depression hit the country, causing an unknown amount of time for the US to climb out of the economic crisis, if not for World War II. The scenario repeated itself as all parts of the world were engulfed in US war. Effective business decisions were made without getting involved first. The US provided military operations for the Allies through Lend-Lease, which was not free. For example, the UK eventually paid off the US for this help as recently as 2006. But the main thing is that as a result of active lending to Europe and the kind provision of a reliable Fort Knox for storing gold from other countries, and as a result, by the end of the war, the United States had collected 75% of all the gold reserves of the planet. Therefore, in 1944, the United States proposed the use of dollars for international settlements. But why not? The Allies will repay their debts, no one knows when. Gold is too bulky to transport, and a reliable reserve currency has also been promised, so that $1 can change for almost 100 grams of gold. It sounds good, but something has gone wrong. Today, dollars are not exchanged for metal anymore. The following has happened. After the war ended, Europe started to recover, and the French president, he sent a ship carrying $750 million. Half of the gold reserves were emptied. And after that, President Richard Nixon canceled the exchange of currency for metal. Having gained access to it, the US currency printed the press on a table. And from 2005 until now, the dollar's turnover has increased fourfold. The stability of the dollar is strong, making the debt of the USA. And after that, President Richard Nixon canceled the exchange of currency for metal. And after that, President Richard Nixon canceled the exchange of currency for metal. Having gained access to it, the US currency printed the press on a table. And from 2005 until now, the dollar's turnover has increased fourfold. You might think that the dollar is a pyramid that will collapse soon. But, of course, it is unlikely that one reserve currency will be replaced by another. Even in decades, it is an impossible task. Therefore, it is not surprising that, over the past 20 years, half of international trade has been conducted in dollars, and a trend change is not expected. Just think about it. The country's debts have doubled in the last 15 years, but investors consider buying them to be a risk-free investment. How is that? It's very simple. Who would you rather lend money to? A poor friend or a rich one? The answer is obvious. And the whole world invests in the reliable US economy because there are not many other alternatives. And yes, the trade deficit does not change anything, as the United States sells fewer goods and services than it consumes, but it pays for them in dollars. Think about it. If you printed money that the entire world used, how quickly would you go bankrupt? Maybe never.